You're listening to Runescape Weekly Special Edition for 5/17/2017. I'm your host Magebit with over 15 years of RuneScape experience. Joining me today is Harley, and on today's show, the story and reaction to the demodding of Canada Grrl. Welcome back for a very special edition of RuneScape Weekly. Magebit here, Harley joining me. How you doing, Harley?
I'm doing good. You know what I've been doing most of the week is just AFKing at Harps to get my charity tokens. I have to get 2k a day because I doubled it twice. You know, for the last 10 days I've been getting 2k. Yeah. So now I'm almost done. I have like 200 left, and then I'll have gotten 20k tokens total. I think you did the same, right?
Yeah, I did do the same, and I did make. I almost didn't make my 2k yesterday. I came really close. And today I should have enough time for sure.
There were nights that I logged in at 7:45 and played the full 4 hours.
Please don't lag out. Please don't lag out. Please don't lag out.
Yeah, please don't crash, because NXT crashes for me sometimes.
Yeah, that's
hoping that doesn't happen.
Yeah, that would be the worst. Yeah, that's basically. I've had to do that once so far. It's tough because it's like you put the rune coins into it, so you feel like you're gypping yourself if you don't.
And it's such good bonus XP. Too.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you get at least like 2 million bonus XP out of it right before double XP weekend. I mean, if that's not worth a few hundred rune coins, I don't know what is. I have...
and this time particularly, like, I mean, anytime I'm cool with it, but I normally don't buy them, but this time it's going to charity. I was like, that's kind of what...
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, I should grab a second one. I forgot charity. Like, generally I only grab one, and because charity and double XP weekend, I'm like, yeah, definitely I'll grab another one now. And I totally forgot. Yeah, all rune coins for this specific event are all going to help those charities, and I'm glad to see them pick up that specific category of mental health. That's been really awesome. I have one announcement myself real quick before we jump into the show. And this is actually one announcement that I kind of wish I had a live audience for, but that's okay. I'll give it anyway. I got 120 cooking officially on I think it was Tuesday morning, roughly. I've honestly it's a blur. I forget. But I did it. 120 cooking is over, and I moved on.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've moved along to fire making, because that's another quick one. So I'm now switched from portable World 99 to portable World 100. So here I am. I mean, they're basically about the same XP per hour, so another 3 weeks or so, and I'll hopefully be done with fire making. However, I have a feeling that the release of Menopause is going to interrupt 120 fire making, and I'll probably end up either going for 120 Slayer at that time or doing shifting tombs to 120 dungeoneering, depending on a myriad of things. Like, is shifting tombs even fun is basically number one there, but yeah, that's what's happening with me. Anything else you want to get into before we get into this long story that you have meticulously put together here for us? I have to say, big kudos on your behalf for putting this all together. Good work.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to say I have two things to say, I guess.
Yeah.
First one would be shifting tomb. I didn't get a chance to talk about that in the last show because I ended up being super busy over the weekend, but I'm super excited for what they look like if they play out to be like, I don't know what GP and hour they play out with all 90s, but hopefully it's something that's worth doing.
I hope
for people who want to make gold, and also, I mean, that way, it'll bring back social skilling in a really cool way, which is something that used to be a big part of the game.
Yeah, it would be really fun to do live streams and shifting tombs if it's enjoyable, because yeah, it's basically Dungeoneering 2.0. It's a 5-man team event or a 1-person event if you want it to, but love the idea that it's multiple teams and everything, or multiple people per run and everything. So this could be the next social skilling. Like this could be what we've been waiting for a long time, or they could Jagex it up. We'll find out. I'm looking.
And I also want to say that PvM Perspective will be delayed for a week.
Okay.
Just because I was busy over the weekend, so we couldn't record, and then I wasn't feeling well at all yesterday. So we'll be doing 2 episodes in a row.
Okay.
So we'll do one next Thursday, and then we'll be back on right Thursday after that.
Gotcha.
So just want to let everybody know that.
Cool. Appreciate the heads up.
And as far as this topic goes, to introduce a little bit, yeah, I followed this whole thing pretty closely on Reddit. So they probably saved like over 50 links. I don't know how many links are in this.
A lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I would say there's about 30, 35 links I have open right now.
Yeah. So I went through and combed out some of the ones that were kind of repetitive and long. There were a lot of posts that had like close to 1,000 upvotes. Not all of them made it in here because some of them were just like we're referencing a million other posts. So if you didn't follow it closely, this would be a good summation. I think it also there's some interesting details of, well, at least the unconfirmed theory of some things that gets talked about that I don't think you can accept. And you know, most of these posts aren't made by people who necessarily telling the facts. They all have biases, so just keep that in mind.
Of course.
And yeah.
So what we have here is a long road of basically what happened in regards to the World 60 Pangs website / friends chat / forum post, which I believe it all started with the forum post, and a rabbit hole. We just got lunged down a rabbit hole of alleged corruption and mods leaking information and people doxing. It goes insane. And you have taken the time to put together a definitive kind of walkthrough here, post by post. So I'm going to do my best to read through this, and you are going to be my guide as I'm reading through this. So interrupt me when you feel necessary to interject information, insert information, or whatever. I'm going to follow your guide, and you are going to be pretty much the overarching narrator, as I am the kind of the monologuing narrator here. Does that make sense? We cool with that?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's roll with this. And anything you want to introduce as I begin with this first post here? So the first one up is called "Respect for Mod Shauny."
Yeah, I'll just say I have this broken down into I think 5 parts. So part 1 is called "Starting at the Epilogue." Shauny screws up. So this is just it's another community thing that happened. It's interesting to compare the reaction to the community to what happened here versus the forum event. That's the only reason we're talking about it.
Good forward. Yeah. So this is not actually related to what happened. This is a forward showing you the contrasting nature between basically 2 internal screw-ups and how they were handled very differently. So exactly. Here we go. This post is by RVD8, or I can't even read that name. RV80? I don't know. Sorry, buddy. Butchered your name. Anyway, says here, so guys, it's no secret our dear community manager, Mod Shauny, had an accident on the stream today. Accidents happen, and it sucks. We will never hate anyone for a simple accident, and neither should Jagex. What sucks more is how devastated he seemed to be and how he emotionally reacted to that. You can't fake that. As shown by the comment, "Why are those buttons so close together?" shows how easily anyone at Jagex could have made the mistake. We've got people posting the image shown and asking what it is, and conspiracies are even being formed already. Instead of worrying about what it is, we need to show how much we appreciate Shauny, and for good reason. It was incredibly evident to see how upset and worried he became when he clicked the preset. So much so, he forgot to end the stream. That's pure panic. He's been professional through and through, and so this is clearly out of character from pure panic. That was incredibly hard to see. It's not an undisclosed thing that Jagex are working on new IPs. It's all over their website. They're hiring for a new project, and this much we know. If that is indeed what he accidentally revealed, so be it. Now we know the name. That is nothing more, even if it is that. If anything, Jagex could swing this as a stunt, a point for discussion, or a point based to development hype. Marketing PR 101. Nothing's an accident if you give it purpose and reason. You can swing everything. Even if nothing more is said on the matter, then it is what it is. So for you, Shauny, if you get to read this, don't stress. You won't lose your job. You shouldn't even face action. It's an accident, but chin up and on to the next project. You know us guys and girls in the community got your back. Don't sweat it. If anything, you might have given Jagex a new opportunity in which they reveal a new project. Honestly, you got this. You'll continue to smash it and go above and beyond as you always have done as RCM. Edit, it's been so great to see everyone's support for Shauny, which, yeah, the support was overwhelmingly positive, of course, because everybody loves Shauny. He's a great guy. So, to set the mood there, right?
Yeah, and I mean, if you haven't watched the video, it's a pretty, you can tell he's pretty stressed out.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
It's a pretty terrifying moment, and, if you understand, Shauny probably signed an NDA of some kind when he got his job because he sees a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and you can lose your job over that for
super easily.
super easily, so it was worrisome. But mod balance then goes ahead and comments on this, which I think is
Yes. Mod balance
next here
replies and says, "I love that you guys have so much respect for Shauny. It's really nice to see. Don't worry though, this was an accident and he's not going anywhere. This is a Jagex internal matter, but there is nothing else to say about this. Really, accidents happen. To tell you the truth, the logo you saw is a project code name for an otherwise undisclosed project. We were showing it off on an internal live stream. That's all we were willing to reveal at this time, but stay tuned for more. In summary, this was an accident, so obviously this isn't something you'd get in trouble for." So, big props to how they handled that, of course.
It's interesting that he says the word project.
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe that's just a more common word to use in England. I don't know, but just that word here means less, like, makes it sound like it's going to be related to RuneScape.
It makes it sound like it is less of its own independent thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I will agree with you. I think it's wording. I honestly think it's wording in this or dialect, if you will. But yeah, it's definitely worth kind of conjecting over, because it could be. I mean, just the sheer fact that there are so many letters in this post that have been bolded by somebody as a reply is like freaking me out. Like they've found a hidden message inside the post. Of course, I don't know if you saw that reply by Torin Key.
Yeah, I did.
I haven't tried to read it, but I just like it's severely distracting. But yeah, I think that's more so just they're saying project either to be generic about it, so we can't make too many speculations, or it might just be more English to say project. I don't know. That's my speculation, which I guess is all anyone can do at this point, right? Is
yeah,
speculate.
My speculation, honestly, I think there's a chance that it's a old school RuneScape non-Java client.
That would be interesting. And needed.
I feel like we can't really deny, like, that community is big.
Yeah, definitely.
It's big. It's more active than we are. They absolutely deserve one.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's my pie in the sky theory.
It's a pie in the sky, but it is not to be discounted. I wouldn't be surprised if they are going to increase old school development costs and staff and whatnot. I don't follow them closely enough to know if that's ever been on the table or off. I know they recently, when I say recently, I mean the past like year or so, hired a larger old school team. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that that very well could be that this project that Shauny kind of oopsie doodled here could be an old school team. I do find it interesting that they held this very lackadaisically as far as the whoopsie doodle, as far as just releasing it or having Shauny release it rather. Like they were pretty much like, shit happens. And if you take that and compare it to another incident with Maudine, who basically was obscene on his own RuneScape channel, or his own Twitch channel on his own time, and they basically fired him for that. I think really goes to show you that Jagex does value loyalty in their staff, because I honestly can't think of anyone harder working and more loyal that is frontward facing, at least, than Shauny is. And they tossed Maudine to the curb for saying a few obscene things, but Shauny leaks an unreleased IP, and they're like, it was an accident. Well, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
on that?
I think if it had been like concept art with a name on it, like Next Gen is so generic.
It is so generic.
It's not a video game name.
If you think if Shauny accidentally showed like a 10-second like preview that was only meant to be seen like internally, like an animation,
RuneScape remastered,
like
animation comes up on the screen.
Yeah, and it's like of the tablet version of RuneScape that we've all been waiting for, and like he releases like 3 seconds of that like 10-second clip before he freaks out and like rips his Ethernet cable out of his computer. Do you think he'd be fired, or do you think that
I don't know if he'd be fired, but he would
be banned
probably. Well, like, so did you watch the latest live stream?
No, I don't think so. Should I?
He at the beginning it was Mod JD, and he was like, "Hey, I'm taking over for Shauny."
Oh.
Because if you all know like what happened, and then he's like, I can't do it, Shauny, get back in here. And he starts laughing. So they made a joke about it.
That's good that they're in good spirits about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what?
I don't think he might not have been fired, because it still wouldn't have been his fault, right? But it would have been a bigger deal.
It
So
would
I
have been
think
a big
he probably
deal,
would have gotten pulled off live stream or something.
Yeah, they might have
for a while.
Yeah, put him on probation or something.
But I'm still not sure you can fire it. Like, it's just this should mean that they buy a new computer and use that new computer only for the internal streams, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I understand it's NDA.
Don't share
right?
those boxes.
Right, like, yeah, okay, it's NDA, of course. Willfully releasing content that's under NDA should be against, should break the NDA. But, like, accidentally doing it, I feel like, has some sort of credence to, like, case-by-case basis. Like, it should be, like, this... Because NDAs, you have to understand, NDAs are not just, like, a handshake, oh, you lose your job. They're a legal contract that can be brought up in a court of law. This is a legal agreement here. So, like, I honestly think that if they did fire him for it, he would have some standing in court, too, at the very least. So. Maybe even if he didn't want to work there after going to court. Like, that's another thing I never understood. Is like, who wants to sue a company and then go back to work for them? But,
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about this, it's very much like, it should, like we said, it shouldn't be there. Like, it's bad security. Like, if you have important information for internal, I only don't put it on the same computer that you use to live stream to the world. Just not at all smart.
Yeah, definitely. Or, I mean, yeah, they clearly just use the same setup for internal and, outward-facing live streams, which is, as you said, a really bad idea. They should be, keeping those things secure on an internal network. Either way, totally not Shauny's fault. It's not like he put it there in the first place, which I think really is what protects him, is he didn't put it there in the first place, more than likely, considering he's just community management. Anyway, so here we see...
And then we have Mod Osborne leaving I think he makes a comment.
He does. Next post. He comments and says, I believe this comment actually happened chronologically before the comment we just read, but he pretty much was just like, don't worry, Shauny, honest mistake. We all make them. This was a slide from an internal company live stream, so there must have been something left over from that. God bless you, Shauny. We just have to teach you to cut feed when a stream is over. So apparently, Shauny overreacted and deleted the whole live stream instead of just cut out the end clip. I think Osborne's just having a little stab at him for.
Well, I think the fact Shauny didn't think he was live anymore. Like, he knew he showed it.
Yeah.
But he was not live on Twitch anymore. He was only live on YouTube.
On YouTube. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was
the
weird.
Reaction only came through on YouTube.
That's interesting. That must mean their backends. That means they live stream to each platform individually themselves. They must have some good bandwidth. Because when I pull the plug, it pulls the plug on every channel because I multi-stream. So if he pulls the plug on Twitch and forgets to pull the plug on YouTube, I guess that's how they must have it set up. But yeah, so all the big Jmods are basically like, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. So I guess, let me see. Should I continue? Yeah, the next post kind of goes into the next topic here, right?
And the community reaction to all these posts are like,
super
glad
positive.
Shauny isn't in trouble. Like super positive. Don't. And Shauny, I don't think he should have gotten fired, but they had a right to in many ways. It's like my only point here.
I wouldn't have. Like, from an objective standpoint, I would be like, all right, I mean, it's within their legal standing to do so. They're assholes for doing it, but I mean, I can't say that they can't do it. But yeah, I mean...
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like it's stupid mess-ups like that that get someone fired when they aren't welcome, really, and people are just looking for a reason to fire you. But when someone who's loved and, respected at the company makes a little mistake like that, it's not a big deal. They just say, whatever, Obviously, you're going to get scolded, but shit happens to everyone. And because of how much everyone really enjoys Shauny's, moderation style and just, company attitude, I think that they were much more willing to just kind of let it go, opposed to a Mondine where they were basically like, you're out of here immediately.
So I also think it could be one of those things, too, where, like, in training, this was just basically they said that if you leak something, you're fired.
Yeah.
Like, that could be, like, when I worked at a certain retail store that you and I both worked at.
Yep.
There was a policy that if you did not work on Black Friday,
you're fired.
You were fired. But I know there were multiple years of people who didn't show up for the Black Friday shifts and nothing ever happened to them.
I think it's technically illegal to fire someone for not working on Black Friday.
I would 100% believe you with that.
I'm pretty sure you can't fire someone purely because I had the same. They did the same thing to us when I worked at that horrible place, and my second year in, I was on my 2 weeks notice during Black Friday, and they were like, "Please come in." I'm like, "Y'all can go fuck yourselves. I ain't working Black Friday." Like they hated me so much as I was literally leaving. Like I was like Black Friday week was my last week. I did it purposefully. That obviously I could have stayed an extra week, but I'm an asshole, and they didn't do anything for me.
Working Black Friday is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And on the flip side, my first week, my starting week was a Black Friday week. So I came in and left on a Black Friday.
At least does that mean you got your store discount right away?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
I also got to I got about 2 days training on the register, and then they were like, "All right, now do 800 customers." It was great.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It was, oh man, the holidays there were just bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so obviously they didn't enforce that, so it may be that Jagex training is if you leak, you get fired.
Yeah.
Because that's what you have to say. But then a special case comes up, and they make a decision. They just don't want to say that because that leads to more questions than just if you leak, you get fired, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want anyone questioning the policy. And I don't know what UK law is. It could be completely different, but yeah, they might not want people questioning that policy. Anyway, so let's compare that little happy hiccup, if you will, to this case here. This first post here, and is there anything you want to interject before I begin reading?
Just, this is part 2 of the forums fiasco, so this goes into what happened on the forums. Canada Grrl weighs in, and yeah, there's a little joke post at the end of this one too that we can both laugh at.
All right, here we go. So this first post is by 9GagGod, appropriate for the situation that this is eventually going to unfold into. And it says here, do Jagex have any intentions of taking action against this blatant abuse of power through which Canada Grrl, one of the most helpful members of the community, lost her PMod and FMod statuses? In this case, there was no sense in her PMod status being revoked, and all Jagex showed us was that shady under-the-table deals is how they would like to operate. The whole weekly thread situation was frankly pointless and only helped kill one of the most used things the forums had to offer. In attempting to quickly and quietly implement a new rule, Mod Kalea caused one of the most active and helping members of the community to lose her mod status. Does Jagex not realize just how blatantly disrespectful this is to the community, showing us that instead of properly telling us clear guidelines and implementing rules, you choose to treat us like children and fail to realize that the majority of your player base is adults? Are adults. Every few months, we get a new case like this, and the result is always the same. Jagex says it is being investigated, and in the end, nothing occurs. What? Your ability to understand and interact with the community has greatly fallen over the years. Again, it's like the complete opposite, whatever. Maybe you should watch the RuneScape documentary and not make the previous mistakes. An important thing that should be addressed by you, Mod Balance, is the whole thing revolving about Canada Grrl. Around Canada Grrl, rather. You yourself have admitted the forums are clunky, and that's why most of us use Reddit. In-game forums are extremely important in a large amount of games, but whatever. What I would like is for Jagex to issue a clear statement of why Canada Grrl's mod statuses were revoked, and this isn't just plain shitty behavior by our favorite forum Jmod. Something that you should look into, and quickly, is returning Canada Grrl's mod statuses as they were removed in a clear abuse of power, and you yourself, Mod Balance, admitted the rules are vague. Hardworking members of the community who actively help others should be valued, not discarded for trying to smoothen out the process. Your vague rules should not negatively impact the community, and you should take responsibility for your actions, not blame it on others. Of course, knowing Jagex policy, this will fully be ignored, and later some terrible post will be made in which most of the complaints will again be ignored. So, that's 9GagGod's feeling, and an apt introduction to how this all unfolded. Again,
and it's interesting because like when I think this was probably the first post that I saw on the subject, and I read it, and I just was like, "There's so much suspect here." Like I don't, like I'm sure something happened,
accusations,
obviously,
yeah,
but there's a lot of accusations with no actual evidence,
no proof,
or any way. Like, I don't even know who you are as a person, so there's no validity to like what you're saying at the moment.
Like,
Which makes it.
As the individual has aptly named themselves 9gag God, it gives me absolutely no reference as to who they are in the RuneScape community. So, yeah, the fact that this received the upvotes that it did is probably more so due to the nature of the contents rather than who they actually are. But we did get a post, of course, coming up next here by Canada Grrl herself. This got her Reddit gold times 5, I just want to say. Like, this was a loved post with over 2,200 upvotes. One of the most upvoted posts this year in our RuneScape. So, shall I?
Go for it.
All right. So, I am Canada Grrl by Canada Grrl. Hello. Exactly what it says on the tin. I am Canada Grrl from RuneScape. I am also new to Reddit, this being my first post, so please be gentle. There has been some discussion lately about me and recent events on the RuneScape forums. This is not an act of revenge, nor a tell-all. Sorry to disappoint you if that's what you were looking for. I have been reading the comments and posts, and I am here to hopefully answer any questions and clear up some misinformation that I have been seeing. In addition, I would like to say thank you very much to those who have posted support and equally to those that have commented how much the threads and team have meant to them over the years. It is always nice to hear. It means a lot and is greatly appreciated. Thank you for taking the time to post your comments and letting me know. Firstly, some of you have questioned who the heck am I? Well, as a quick intro, I am the author of the Penguin Locations thread on the RuneScape forums. I was a forum mod from 2009 and made PMod a few years later until now. Penguins are a weekly distraction and diversion in RuneScape and were introduced in September of 2008. The very first week, a forum thread was made called Penguin Locations. The next week, when new penguins came out or the game reset, another thread was made, version 2, as there was a new author. This V format continued week after week when new penguins would come into the game in order to version and have been making them almost entirely since then. We are currently on version 454, so that is over 400 threads or weeks or over 8 years of weekly threads. I would like to address up front a few statements I have been reading, so everyone is on the same page. I was not invited to be a forum mod just so that I could lock my own threads. There was no arguing behind the scenes with Jagex. Obviously things were questioned, but there was no arguing, fights, or private forum rage. Sorry to disappoint, but this was not a case of Fmod argues in private and is demodded. Besides, there was no chance with the time in which everything was decided. Even still, I had accepted the decision. Jagex owns the forum, so it's their rules. I have always understood that and supported that. I was making plans in order to comply, and since have, this was never an issue about forum mods locking their own threads. This was never brought up and is not at all the center of what happened. Someone else brought that up after it all had been misconstrued. It has been suggested that there was personal bias from Mod Kalea. Although yes, there is a bias present based on past situations with Tube accounts and the Penguin group I am in, I truly believe and hope it has nothing to do with the bearing on the current situation.
Now, keep that little nugget in mind as we talk about more about that near the end. But her talking about Mod Kalea and potentially some.
It's funny because I read this when I read this for the first time. That did not catch my eye as much as it does now that I understand what's going on here. Others are involved when a demodding occurs anyway. So what did happen? Here is how I know it. On April 19th, the Jmod who oversees the forum mods, Mod Kalea, asks that the weekly Penguin thread format be stopped and instead become a permanent thread only renewed when maxed out or needed an updating. This was initially posed as a question, as in, could it be done? This was asked in the private forum mod forum. Obviously, it was questioned, as it had been in place for almost 9 years. Why change it now? Several people gave input. Nevertheless, on April 21st, it was said to be compulsory, and the change was effective for the coming reset in week, April 25th.
So, to provide some light on this too, from what I understand, now this is a private forum, of course, that only Fmods can see. But from what was said slightly externally is that there were other penguin groups, like multiple other penguin groups that were represented. We talked about this post who had no issue with it. So like it potentially went through just because World 60 Pegs were the only people who objected to it, or one of the minority who did, at least from which, like I said, unable to confirm it because we can't see.
Yeah, we can't see these posts. But allegedly,
posts,
what you're telling me is the majority of the Penguin posters were like, yeah, it's fine, and a minority, including World 60 Pengs, were like, we would rather you not. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and it also sounds like there might have not been much objection tried either. Because another thing that comes up is the amount of time it would take, because they were going to announce this on Wednesday, and the Penguin threads go up on Wednesday, because that's when they reset, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of why Canada Grrl will claim that she told other people about this, because you're not supposed to tell people about this stuff until it goes live.
Yeah.
But I think, in that case, it's like she should have at the time to get the post up, and then, like, the announcement doesn't interrupt that work. That would have made sense, but it doesn't sound like she tried there. Maybe that didn't work. Who knows? But it's stuff like that could have been potentially better communicated in the background instead of just telling.
It does sound like that there was some friction going on with the communication behind the scenes for sure. Shall I continue?
Yep.
All right. It says here, I will add here that ModMadHe has publicly recounted all of this on the RuneScape forum, so these are not secrets. We never really have been given a real reason for this change, and I asked. The only given was that it seemed a little off from the rest of the forums. It was only after everything happened that ModMadHe posted on the RuneScape forums that, in fact, the weekly thread format was deemed to be rule-breaking. Even since then, Jmods on here have said that the CM just turned a blind eye for almost 9 years. This was never mentioned in the initial discussion. I am still confused as to why this was not brought up, and initially this would seem to be a highly relevant point to the discussion, brief as it was. It would also probably have changed the outcomes. But how did this all start? Someone posted it on the Fmod review thread pointing out that 2 Fmods created weekly threads. We were not initially told this. This is how the CM team came to be looking at it, and at some point decided it was breaking the rules. Again, we had been posting in this manner for almost 9 years, and numerous Jmods acknowledged it over time. However, as ModMadHe had publicly stated, the past has no bearing on a decision made by the CM team of today, and frankly, I have to kind of agree. It's odd, sure, but at the end of the day, it is their forum, and therefore their rules. It's a new CM, new interpretations. A little more explanation and communication about it would have been nice, though. It actually has not been stated anywhere that I have seen precisely what forum rule we were breaking. I am only guessing that it must have been the no duplicate threads rule. It was asked on the RuneScape thread discussing this, but no Jmod answered, and the thread was Jmod locked with no reply. Back to the story. With the week coming up, I had to scramble to be ready. Although I am the author, I have never considered it solely my thread as it belongs to the community. I also made the weekly thread in conjunction with 3 other people, 2 of whom I could only contact in-game. I had to consider how we would do their posts. I had to let them know, which was not easy considering time zones and availability, not to mention my own. As of late, I have been working straight with no days off. Then I started thinking about other posts, and the changes that would have to be made. Then, what about reverses? How many? Reserves, how many? This was a big change and needed time to plan and get input of how the new thread should look, since it had to last a while. I also strongly believe that the community, the users of this thread, should have a heads up about how the changes. Again, it had to be posted for almost 9 years, and they have come to expect it to be a certain way. They would wonder what was going on if there was suddenly something new. Why should they not be made aware? One of her first and biggest follies right there, I think, was letting people know.
It is specifically against the rules stated that all Fmods know that none of that stuff can be shared publicly, any of the discussions, and so telling any of her cohorts technically broke the rules. Now, whether or not that rule should exist, that's a different argument, but it technically does.
Yeah, and we have to deal with the fact that it exists. Let me continue on. So on Friday, April 21st, I asked certain ranks in our team to spread the word on social media about the change. I'm not on social media either, personally, or with my RuneScape account. I do own a CG Twitter, but have not used it. I was once impersonated on Facebook, but am not active. This is why I asked others to spread the word. It is worth mentioning that at no point did Jagex ever say this was a confidential change or that the community should not be told. Again, it was posted in confidence. I understand that. I think what happened here a little bit was ModMat he kind of was posting somewhat publicly on the matter. I think this matter was half posted publicly, half posted privately, and the lines were blurred a little bit here on what was public, what was private. The overarching change should have been private, though, right?
No, nothing had come out from any of the mods at this point.
Okay,
the first leak comes from World 60 Penguins Twitter account.
Gotcha. Okay.
Where I don't even think they mention it's a rule change. I think they just say we're going to do this. I don't even remember exactly what it says, but that's where it comes from, their Twitter account. Well, she admits there. She says we told somebody to put it out on social media.
Gotcha.
Before the Jmod announcement. The Jmod announcement was going to happen on Wednesday, and go in effect the same day, which was going to be hard, like we said earlier, for her team to transition. So that's part of her motivation to leak it. Or not leak, whatever you want to say, share it.
Sure.
However you want to word it.
I'll continue on. In the past, they would state that, if applicable, I do not take confidentiality and privacy very seriously, mod policies and otherwise. However, this was a forum change to player-owned threads. I'm sorry, she says I do take privacy. I said that she doesn't. She says I do take confidentiality and privacy very seriously. My apologies. But this was a change to player-owned threads. Nothing to do with Jagex policy or departments or protocols. Well, I would argue the latter there, as it does have to do with protocols. The authors happened to be Fmods, but it had nothing to do with the Fmod policies, and frankly, was not really relevant in my opinion. And that's the unfortunate part, opinions.
And it's not her opinion to
make the
decision. To have.
Indeed. So, again, not relevant in her opinion. Even I cannot imagine why Jagex would want something like this to be top secret. I was told I broke confidentiality rules, which I suppose is technically correct, but how else should it be communicated? I should note that I did not share screenshots or quotes or such. I just shared that there was going to be a change to the thread format. Mod Kalea had also stated that we could blame her. Good.
I also want to say, so as far as breaking the confidentiality rules, there are a lot of posts going on around this that I didn't put in because there's already a lot, but from like Mod Balance and some other Jmods stating that she was not fired just for that reason. There's a lot of there's a lot of people who are trying to say if that's the truth, just tell us, and they're saying no, which is important to later reactions. Yeah.
Continuing on, Mod Kalea had also stated that we could blame her if we wanted, as she had said players will be confused and upset with the change. Since no real reason had been communicated to us for this change, I included it in my message. I now have seen posted here by Mod Balance, we do not demod people for discussing rule changes, so apparently that was not the breach then, which I can hardly understand it to be. Regardless, this is not the end of the story. Posts were made about the change, as I had requested. We do have to be diplomatic, I added in my request, but unfortunately, not all were neutral. Players were upset with the change, especially since no real reason had been given for it. Not being active on RuneScape social media, I was completely ignorant to the level of negativity already in place towards Mod Kalea. I'm almost on board with you there. In hindsight, I am surprised then when she would offer herself to be blamed. Well, I mean, I think she's like, everyone already hates me. Go ahead, blame it on me. I'm used to getting blamed for everything. Nevertheless, unfair personal attack posts were made towards her, and that tends to happen a lot. And I'm wondering if she just tends to scoop up blame. Like, I'm wondering how many things are actually her fault now. But,
I think something that I like to show with people with this story is the nature to overblow things without proof. Because up until this point, and even in this post, like 100% of the words that Canada Grrl says here are believed by like the majority of the people who participated in Reddit for like the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're right.
Every single thing, like the front page was covered in negative posts. This post got, like we said, over 2,000 upvotes. There are people who didn't believe it, but the people who didn't believe it were very, and not even like believe Jagex 100%, but were just skeptical of like she's not telling us the whole truth. Like, people just bought it hook, line, and sinker, which is dangerous when she isn't showing us any proof. She has no proof, right?
Yeah, there is no proof here at all. This is all conjecture, all hearsay. I've been trying to be neutral here, but in the past, I have reported on things mainly from the RuneScape official forums, and I think this was before she was the CM team's like PMod and FMod manager, but quite often she was very abrasive and adamant towards backing up incorrect information that was just like blatantly wrong on the RuneScape official forums, and not once but a few times. My problem being is it was years ago and I can't remember any specific examples, and I feel like if I can't remember any specific examples and it was years ago, maybe it's time I let it go and just start over with her since she's in a new position and not hold the past against her. I think that's something I need to do to grow as a reporter here, is not permanently hold against her opinions I've had from her from the past. But I want you to think about my opinion that I've held on her previously and keep that in mind as accusations do unfold against her later in this. So I felt like my opinion of her is somewhat relevant here. I'll continue on unless you wanted to jump in. Otherwise, I will...
Nope,
okay.
Go ahead.
From what I understand, they grew as more people heard about this and word spread. This was now becoming something and was now on Jagex's radar. Unfortunately, with the seemingly senseless change being made by Mod Kalea, it was only adding fuel to a fire that was already burning. I logged into the game and forums on Monday, April 24th to be informed that my moderator statuses had been revoked. I had breached confidentiality and used the private knowledge to sow dissent amongst the community for a change that had... This is why I'll never get... If I ever become a Jmod or a Pmod, I will be accused of sowing dissent amongst the community within 2 weeks.
Well, I think this... It's important to keep in mind, too, because they don't just say for sharing the secret, which is what people are focusing on. Like,
they're charging her with conspiracy here.
Like they're with her like actively not just
inciting
people in an angry way, not even necessarily inciting, but like just being angry about it in such a way to people who aren't FMods, right? So sharing her not only the rule but also her frustration in the rule, which is also a big no-no in my opinion.
I will agree with that. Let's see here. Continuing on, I spearheaded an opposition to undermine Jagex. Well, that was never my intent. I questioned the change, but I never opposed it, and I am sure both Jagex and I never imagined things would become as big as they have. I have no idea the reaction would flame out of control as it did. I never thought there would even be much of a reaction. I just wanted players to know about the change. I would also never condone personal attacks on anyone, as this is not fair regardless if they were a Jmod or not. This is not a personal issue. So that, in essence, is my story. If you have made it this far, hindsight is a wonderful thing, so I suppose the takeaways from this experience are that you should always control your own message on social media. You should also always be careful what you post there, as it does reflect on others and can carry larger consequences. Yep, this is indeed someone who's never been on social media before, because these are social media lessons that you're supposed to learn as a teenager. But, yeah. I'll continue on here. I was ignorant to the level of negativity already in place and to how far things could go. However, ignorance is not an excuse, is it? Ultimately, it was my actions that caused the end result, so I took the hit. I accept that. Hey, I can even see Jagex's viewpoint. Think about it. On Friday, customer management closes up for the week, thinking all is fine, a small forum thread change has been implemented, but spring fair is out, etc. Then all hell breaks loose over the weekend, with feeds filling up with negative backlash about some penguin thread. They come back to the office on Monday, if they haven't been following it over the weekend, and you know they probably have, to be hit with all this negativity and anger from players. They had to act. I get it. My background is business and marketing. I can understand where they are coming from. They have to protect the company, the brand, the department, their colleague.
It's worth saying that we learned later, I don't go into detail too much because we'll cover this whole post, but Jagex didn't just act right away. They also read her private chat logs and found strange stuff in there. So just keep that in mind as part of the story here too, supposedly.
Good to know. Good to know. Let's see. So it would have been nice to have been asked what happened, but we do not live in an ideal world, and we know these things would not happen. It is sad, though, that something that could have been so easily handled wasn't and had become such a huge mess. Honestly, there was no need for this to have played out the way it did. I am sure Jagex did not wish this. I certainly didn't. Unfortunately, the thread change, whether it was valid or not, was poorly communicated in wording, manner, and direction. The time for implementation was not reasonable. The community awareness ahead of the change was disregarded or likely not even considered.
See, so I feel like these are also important parts for a little bit of her bitterness. I feel like is
coming out here.
Through.
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel that as well. And honestly, I don't blame her because I would probably be just as salty in this instance. But it is you can definitely see that she's not biased here, and there's probably some information that she's maybe kind of curating here for you and not telling the whole story.
Exactly, and her bitterness shows that she would be willing to like talk angrily about this before the info was leaked, which, as I've said, is probably part of what the problem was.
I think her version of this may be a little more whitewashed than yeah. Let's continue on. I can only assume that it was a lack of knowledge of how Penguin threads operate and how much they are used by the greater community that led to such hasty decisions being made. I have no doubt that if you asked the CM team before this week or who I was or about the Penguin thread, half or more would have no idea who or what you were talking about. We have been around for so long, we are more a part of the wallpaper. We are not high up on the list of importance, and I realize that. Again, that's kind of like a humble attack. You've heard of humble brags. That's like the opposite of what a humble attack? I'm not sure. Passive aggressiveness, I guess. We are not video makers or streamers. We are a group of players who just like to help others and have been doing our thing in the background for almost 9 years. There are lots of players and groups doing similar. Why would CM pay any particular attention? I'm not being sarcastic. I am a realist and looking from that point of view. Although this is merely a blip for Jagex and nothing in comparison to a large situation like climbing boots, for example, it still cannot be counted as a positive for the community or company, in my opinion. Such simple, basic procedures in place could have avoided all of this. There are always some positives to take from a situation, however. One, I am now on Reddit, and already what I had feared, which is why I am not on social media, has begun. I was scrolling through subreddits on the bus this morning and reading Reddit posts on my phone on the way home. At home, I am already hooked. Also, in part from player requests on here, we are now going to be on Reddit too. Yes, the Penguin Weekly threads, and I guess we can make it weekly, will be posted here on Reddit to help all players find Penguin spies and get that free experience. This whole situation generated a lot of comments from players, and as it said from the start, it was great to read and great to see that you would It was great to see that you would like us outside of the RuneScape forums, as so many of you are not on there anymore. As I said, we are already going to be starting a weekly thread on Reddit, and we are also working on a public Discord channel to help you find those pangs. More details to come on that. It is unfortunate things ended as they did. I would much rather have done a thing I am blamed for rather than indirectly causing it, but it is what it is. Although some kind of players have posted here requesting a review of my demodding, there really is no point. There is no way that Jagex can back down from any of the decisions made throughout all of this. It has gone too far now. I accept it when I received the notice, and although it was made clear to me that there was no possibility of appeal and I would never be considered ever for any role in the future, I knew that too. I accept the decisions made by Jagex as it is their game and therefore their rules. Moderator status was never a big thing for me, and I know there is a lot of animosity towards Fmods and Pmods out there, and people rolling their eyes about it now. Penguins still exist, we still have a thread, and I am still Canada Grrl. Those are things that matter to me. Phew! This is one heck of a first post to make. I apologize for the length, but there was a lot to say. I apologize, too, that it might not be as juicy as some may have hoped, but there are no secret dramas, no grand conspiracies to devolve. Pretty much all that I have shared is public knowledge, and there isn't a lot more to it, honestly. I hope I am not in breach of something and risking being banned, though. I am very conscious. I also represent a larger group of players and have always had the first and foremost in my mind. I acted today as I would have done and wanted to be open and honest about the situation. In that vein, I am happy to answer any questions you may have had about anything, so feel free to post. So, there you go. That is quite an introductory thread by I Am Canada Grrl there. And if anything, it sure set Reddit alight.
Oh, it did. The comment section of this post is fascinating.
It really is. Shall we continue on to the next post here, or is there anything you wanted to chime in on in particular?
Nope, I think I covered it with
I think
saying what I wanted to. yeah, mid sentence. This next post here is a bit of a lighter one we can have a laugh at.
Okay, so this next one is by Eclipsing Icarus, who says, "Do patch notes not break forum rules?" And he says, "Found this gem in today's patch notes thread. The original was removed seconds after edited into my post, so I'm assuming mine is removed now too. I thought it was very reasonable and well thought out query, and I don't think that this knee-jerk reaction censorship will solve anything. Pretty relevant question to ask." So again, the post that they're referring to is by Wardine, who says, "I believe this forum thread is breaking the same rules as the D&D thread. I asked that one forum thread be made on this topic rather than weekly ones to follow the threads. If this follows the rules, I ask these two questions. I hope this can be answered rather than ignored. 1. What forum rule did the previous D&D threads break, making it so that they can't make one per week? And 2. Does this thread break the same rule? Why or why not? This question is hard to answer without the first one being answered, so it is vital that the first one be answered." I find that amusing as well. Is like, technically, the patch notes are their own thread each week. However,
Well,
from personal experience, it didn't used to be that way.
also, like, my thoughts as soon as I read this are like, yeah, and Jmods can make their character at any level they want in the game and can spawn bosses in the game and do all this stuff. Like, it's the same kind of stuff.
You're held to a different standard for sure, as a Jmod versus Pmod. Yeah, I mean that's all that really needs to be said right there. You're correct. As far as the roles that people play in a company, is they are just in charge and can really do whatever the heck they want. On the flip side, I do like to think of it as the fact that, like, when I used to look up patch notes, they used to be one long thread. And they stopped doing that because it was really annoying to try and find the most recent patch notes in a super thread. So, if anything, I think weekly posted threads are way more useful than an ongoing thread. So, that's just
it's about wondering, like, the patch notes is probably the most used post on the forums.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, Penguins, I don't know where it comes in, but it's probably not even like half as many people as to see the patch notes.
I would. Well, yeah, I mean, the patch notes get a front page link on like the RuneScape website every day, or not every day, every week rather. So for sure, I would say that those are definitely numero uno. And I have no idea if Penguins are a close second or a close 100th. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure somebody knows. Not me. Anyway. Good little intermission post there like that. And you're right. The patch notes for that week had like 80 posts hidden because people were just basically spamming it with that.
It's also not. It's not censorship.
It's not
that stuff.
Yeah.
You are spamming stuff, and this is not in a public place. First of all, like, those rules, people generally have a misunderstanding, like,
of what free speech is.
Yeah, what free speech is, what counts as censorship, and Jagex not letting you flame a post of theirs.
It's not censorship.
Not censorship. Like, a post is a limited space.
If you showed up at my house and just started playing music on my front door step, right, and you claimed that was free speech when the cops showed up, like, that's the equivalent of spamming a forum post. No, it's not free speech. You're on private property doing something that is not wanted and or against the rules of that private location. Therefore, you're in violation. Get out of here. Just get out of here. It's silly to think that it's censorship in a private forum. Even really, people also even think that, like, the Reddit is a public forum. It's not. If you want, you can go make your own Reddit and do what you want. Reddit as a whole is maybe somewhat of a public forum, because even Reddit as a whole, of course, has its rules and censors certain types of content, which again is a censor. It is self-censorship, which is completely different than when government censors stuff. Like, if I censor something on my show, I have even if you say it, I'm self-censoring my show because you don't own my show. If Jagex censors something I say on their media, they are still self-censoring themselves because I said it on their platform. They're protecting themselves, and they're following their own rules that have been set, again, for their own protection. So, it's not censorship. I completely agree. Speaking of censorship,
now we've got part 3 coming up here. Changes are coming. This is a pretty fascinating turn, I think, in the story.
Yes, and speaking of censorship, this is where people start freaking out and calling the changing of the RuneScape official forum rules I've heard being decried as censorship. Let's read Mod Matt He's post here. It says, we are considering a significant overhaul of the RuneScape official forum rules, lightening the current moderation restrictions and allowing for a more liberal posting policy. As part of this process, we are currently planning an initial switch of the rules from the 15th of May to a new set and experimenting with them for 1 month. If they are success, then we will continue to use them in place of the old rules. So these rules are supposed to be a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I feel like they're a little knee-jerky in response to the censorship thing, but stick to the rules of RuneScape.
I don't know if they're... I don't know if I'd agree they're knee-jerky, because if you read them, they actually seem pretty reasonable. I think what they are is their reaction to the community anger. Like, they didn't focus on the Canada Grrl thing, because, once again, they still feel like they have a valid reason for that, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to back up on that. But if Canada Grrl had not leaked this in the community, just come out as a whole and said, hey, we don't like these forum rule enforcements, why don't we update the rules? Jagex could have done this exact same thing.
I feel like we've been saying it for a while now as a community and everyone. That's why everyone has spilled over to Reddit. But I don't know. I feel like we've been complaining about the forums for years and just nothing has been done.
The forums where we were complaining about like this rule, which is archaic and wasn't being enforced. I don't know. Like,
I've been complaining about the forums specifically in their over moderation for the past couple of years, at least. But like overall, the forums have just been kind of slowly. I think just in my opinion, the forum BBSs in a whole are an outdated, dying technology, and to stick to that format is you're limiting yourself, and it causes problems because it's old and antiquated. There are better systems out there, in my personal opinion. And I don't know. I know even newer systems like the Reddit style system, and there are other ones out there, all also have their flaws as well. But I think the forum BBS style systems are just so basic and rudimentary these days that I don't know how much it's worth fixing the current forums and just opposed to completely overhauling with the new system or literally like endorsing Reddit. Like, I know so many game companies that just endorse their Reddit as their main platform, and I know that can get out of hand if the Jmods don't have control over it, but I don't know. I don't know if you can save the forums at this point. I'll read through the new rules, though. So, of course, stick to the rules of RuneScape is the big one there. Your posts should be appropriate in content. No spam posts. If your links or posts links to images that are unsafe, you're obviously going to get in trouble. Keep your personal information confidential. Be respectful. It's just the very, very basic pillars of don't be an idiot on the internet, right? Stick to the rules. Make appropriate posts. Be respectful of others. That's actually pretty broad. So I guess some kudos there. Sorry for that door slam. Got a cross breeze going on here now, apparently. But yeah, so some good rule changes, I suppose. Kind of, some would say it's including myself, that it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to the. But who's not to say these weren't these weren't planned to be implemented anyway at some point in time.
So
they've been working on this and it got fast-tracked.
If you look at the Kalea post, originally, supposedly it was her questioning whether or not they should enforce this rule. So like, if the majority of people commenting on that had said, yeah, we should just change the rule, that might have even changed it. But like, she didn't come and say we're doing this. She came and asked, and then it appears that the majority of people were into it, or at least. Oh gosh! Once again, private posts, so we don't know what's that way.
This post is like quadrupled in size since the last time I read it. I did not even realize they have why the change. When did you start planning this? How will it be different? Should I read through all these? Are these worth reading, or is it fluff?
I haven't read through those either.
I haven't either. These are new. This is all new. Apparently, because this got so much negativity, they broke down a bunch of information here. I guess I could, if it's new to you too, I will read it then. So why the change? Sure. Because it has been a continual claim by a lot of our players that the forums were too restrictive, and the code of conduct has not kept track with changes the community may have expected. As such, we are looking to experiment with a more liberal arrangement and adjusting the moderation guidelines for Fmods in line with that. So basically saying that people have been complaining. We're trying to adhere We hear you, basically. When did you start planning this? This is something that the team has been discussing for a while now, but the recent issues have brought the internal discussions to the fore. Over the weekend, we considered carefully how we would bring those ideas forward, and we produced the current suggested rule set accordingly. Moderation of the forums prior to yesterday was entirely considered under the previous rule set, and not with the new ones in mind. That's convenient. Let's see. That's a little too convenient. How will it be different? We will be updating the moderation guidelines in line with the new rules and policies in order to relax the tone of the forum. The current policies are strict and have been enforced with a strong hand. The aim will be to move from that style to a style much more liberal, to a much more liberal basis, and see how that feels for our community. We think the end result should feel less constrictive, but still allow for constructive, positive, and engaging discussions. What is Tufty Power going to do with all his free time? Links. We will be allowing the players to post links and are not planning to currently add a link verification system. We will also not allow players to hyperlink those links. We will also not allow players to hyperlink those links. What? Meaning you have to see the actual URL. You can't hyperlink. Okay, I'm dumb. I haven't heard anyone refer to hyperlinking as such since 1997. So I apologize.
Yeah.
They won't. Whatever. I'm sorry. That just threw me for a loop there. We will make clear that the link shorteners cannot be used on the forums. New F-mods. We have been keen to recruit new F-mods for a while, but this has not happened yet due to time pressures. If the new moderation policies and rule set work, well, we will be looking to recruit new F-mods to the team, probably opening ourselves to application, though this is subject to significant discussion over the next month. Tech updates. The CM team would love to have a massive overhaul of forums themselves and the addition of lots of features. Sadly, though, it is not as simple as just grabbing an off-the-shelf solution, as significant chunks of the existing functionality require additional coding between the forums and our back-end systems. There are pitches being made internally currently for a potential overhaul, and we are making clear what players have told us they want function-wise in those discussions. Forum specific. That's actually really exciting to hear, by the way. I'm glad to hear that they're planning on doing something. It really seems that they know the forums are kind of just a dying potato. Forum-specific rules. We are aware of a number of outdated and are reviewing every single set of forum-specific rules in every respect of those potential changes. Examples of what the new ones might look like for specific areas of the forums are something we are hoping we can publish by the end of the week. And finally, ban appeals. If this experiment is successful, we will look at opening up forum ban appeals, both for the forum as a whole and for specific sections, to any players currently under a forum ban. The review will be conducted under the basis of the new rules, but will not be started until we are confident the new policies are working. An email to community@jagex.com with your RuneScape name and details of the ban would serve as a request for review once this trial period is over. So that's an interesting possibility as well. DX is probably still waiting for them to do that for Facebook, as he's banned from their Facebook page. I just love the fact that DX is banned from the RuneScape Facebook page.
That is pretty great.
It's funny as hell. Anyway, so it sounds like the forums are going to become a more interesting place to hang out, literally right now. These changes are in effect. So as long as you weren't trying to post hardcore pornography to the RuneScape forums, it sounds like you could pretty much, as long as you post them in the correct section, kind of sub-forum. So that's kind of cool.
And then Canada Grrl leaves a comment. Well, to me, the rules changes sound good. It's a wonder. I think the one question is why they didn't do these, why they went the other way originally. And I'm just wondering if that's because there wasn't enough F-mod dissent for them not to. They just thought, okay, people seem to be okay with this. It's kind of the one part I wonder. Canada Grrl here replies with a comment that is also interesting.
What page is it on? Or is it just of this thread, or do you mean the next post we have here? Gotcha. So Canada Grrl in her next post says here, in reply to plans to change the RuneScape, why I was confused is because her response to this post is actually not on the RuneScape forums; it's on Reddit.
Yeah.
So that was a little confusing. She says this just makes my situation all the more tragic, and frankly, it now really hurts personally. And I kind of understand where she's coming from with the information we currently have. 2 weeks ago, my thread was deemed to be rule-breaking after almost 9 years, and I have to change it with 4 days' notice. Now today, hey, we are changing the forums hugely and relaxing all rules and being really chill. Huh, this just makes things all the more weirder. Now, if you have just the information we've dealt out so far, it really does, but there's so much more that hasn't unfolded yet, and on top of that, why she was banned was, or not banned, excuse me, but demodded, rather, was not because of her not being, quote-unquote, chill on the forums. It was for disseminating confidential information. Like, that's two very different things here, right? Like, she's saying, oh, it's all relaxed, the rules are all relaxed now, we're being really chill. Yeah, but one of the rules they relaxed was not sharing confidential information, if I remember the list correctly. Yeah. So, I mean, her ban is still valid. The one rule that they did
specifically say they were going to relax, that was the rule they put in place. So they were going to let people make weekly forum posts again. So that's kind of part, because she feels like she wouldn't have done what she did.
I will give her this. Even despite what anything to come here, I do still feel like her demodding, whether you like it or not, her act here was an act of martyrdom, whether intentional or not. Probably not at all, but it feels as though whether or not it was intentional or even it should have been the case, it seems as though people rallied around her demodding, and as a result were able to obtain more liberal forum rules. Does that seem far-fetched to you? Because that, like, to me, seems like, reading between the lines, that's what it looks like to me.
I just don't know if it would have taken this.
I don't know if it would either. I don't know if we needed this for this change to happen. It almost seems like they kind of had it on the back burner anyway. But it feels like, and I'm not saying this is not really something that I would waste a martyr on, like, at all. This is really not worth a martyr. But it feels like she kind of inadvertently martyred herself for something that really is not even that important. But that's just, again, a little introspection from your good old pal Magebit. I'll continue on here. Oh, we're going down the rabbit hole. Oh, boy. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is by Amelie Apulian. I apologize. Or Amelie P. I am holy crap with names today. This post is called Canada Grrl's thread after having watched the RuneScape documentary makes it clear that Jagex has not learned how to communicate with its players and possibly never will. I think we might have read this thread on the show, or maybe I just read it to myself, but we'll read it again. Or at least I'll read it again in case I just read it to myself. Preface. Not looking to fan the flames. I'm a big fan of RuneScape and root for Jagex constantly. This is just a thought. So, like everything else on this subreddit, I read through the entire Canada Grrl manifesto and most of the visible comments and replies. The entire situation is extremely alarming from a player's perspective. Here, in the Jagex documentary, they discuss the changes to the wilderness and free trade and lament the destruction the update caused in-game. Every Jmod seem unanimous in their regret for making a decision so game-changing without properly communicating with their player base. The rapid decline of the players and subscribers was a wake-up call for Jagex to rethink how they handle Jagex player interaction.
Can we just talk about what a stretch it is to try to compare the demodding of one Fmod that most 90+% people who play the game have no idea who is, to an update that changed literally every player's interaction?
Yeah, that is literally the definition of hyperbole, I would say. The next point here is they talk about the idea of bonds, which came from a player apparently, and how it essentially saved RuneScape. Had the suggestion for this change never been listened to by Jagex, who knows where the game would be today? It's hard to say if RuneScape would have recovered or not. We're presented with two extremes: completely ignoring the players and making decisions because Jagex quote-unquote knows better, presumably because it's their game and not the players, or listening to the players so intently that every minor decision are given polls, and the entire team of Jagex was created just to interact with players to make sure the Wilderness update would never, ever happen again. It seems like, as a player of a game as old as RuneScape, the latter was a step in the right direction, but Jagex seemed to have been pulling to the former as of recent. Community management is becoming, or probably already is, a huge running gag. It seems to be no longer about, quote, power to the players, and more about, quote, making sure our overall social media presence is positive to post better revenue. Looking at the player as living dollar signs. At the root of things, of course, Jagex should be worried about their money. Now, I mean, they should be worried about their money, but I don't feel like a living dollar sign when I play RuneScape. If I did, I would quit. I don't play any game that I feel like a walking dollar sign in. That's a huge red flag. Go ahead.
Has one of the most active like CM teams out there. It's kind of an advantage we have of being a relatively small community. I mean, still probably over 1 million players, but still relatively small.
Yeah, in the big scheme of things, sure.
I think that's like we get way more interaction with Jmods than we used to back in the day, and compared to like developers of other games, we get way more interaction.
Heck yeah. They continue on and say their players are their money. But it looks like, as a player, that it's being approached from an angle that is incompatible with the way they describe how they handle the intimacies of community management. It's worrisome to me that, with a team hired specifically for the sake of communication, Jagex constantly flubs basic communication for an audience so willing to listen. Let's put this into perspective. The current drama wave is about a forum thread. Think about the scope of the entire planet, how diplomacy on a country-by-country level is handled day by day by teams and teams of people, and how much value is invested into the process. If Jagex cannot even properly communicate something as simple as a major change to a forum thread, I have no doubt in my mind that Jagex will never really understand community management and don't really have a desire to. Jagex is not a person. It is a business. It exists only...
I feel like...
Go ahead.
It's also worth saying, so this whole time, people are asking Jagex to share details of why they got rid of Canada Grrl, and they're refusing to, because it's against their policy to do so, and people are angry about that, which I think it's completely valid of them to do that. Like, they don't have any reason to tell you why they're demodding some Fmod, like, no matter how loved they are.
I completely agree. It's the internal workings of a company. I mean, this has the making of conspiracy theory written all over it, because what do you see, like, conspiracy theorists do? They stand outside companies like, you won't tell us the details, therefore you're evil! Like, this is just a common, like, case of that. But let me continue on here. Jagex is not a person. It is a business. It exists only to deliver a product that will create more money. And it should be and more clear that community management only exists to ensure that nothing happens to this money. This should be obvious to the lot of you. But if it isn't already, well, here's reality. I mean, yes, you're not wrong. At the very core of things, community management exists to ensure that their revenue stream is maintained. But when your revenue stream is living, breathing human beings, that becomes the job, right? That becomes more of a psychology role than just a simple marketing role. And I think that the community management team does their job accordingly. I mean, that's of course subjective, and it depends on what information you're looking for. And would I love to know everything about every update? Yes, but that's unrealistic. And I think they do a plenty good job communicating with their audience. Compared to every other online game that I've ever played, no company comes close. I think the company that I can think of that maybe comes somewhat kind of close to Jagex that I personally just know about, being an indie company, that is, would probably be like Daybreak Games. They do weekly dev streams for their products. That's the only one I can really think of off the top of my head. Most companies don't offer that level of intimacy. What are your thoughts, Harley?
I would agree that it's generally just smaller indie companies, and especially even beyond that, just having people that are always on the Reddit, like Jmods reply to so many even posts that aren't even upvoted. They're clearly like looking at new posts as well as popular posts. Like, very interactive community management team. I think, and this person's once again overestimating the size of players who are actually affected by this Canada Grrl thing. It's like, not that many people are gonna quit because of this. Yeah, it's just on any level. Like, it's just not gonna cause it to happen.
Let's see here. So the amount of completely honest players who are wary of specific Jmods, who are wary of participating in normal game chat around specific Jmods, who are wary of posting normal threads monitored by specific Fmods, should set off some red flags internally. But it means nothing if it doesn't touch the money. As long as the revenue stream is undisturbed, Jagex has no reason to change how they handle things. The most we can do is support players and aspects of the game we love, and hope that maybe one day Jagex will give power to the players and handle those interactions like humans, not living ATMs. First off, the first thing I want to just point out here real quick is they literally changed the forum rules a couple of days later. And I think that really has to do with Canada Grrl's, again, unintentional martyrdom. Like, those forum rules changes, I think, were fast-tracked, and I say I think, because I can't prove it, but it sounds like they were fast-tracked based off of the document we just read, like, 10 minutes ago, by Mod Matt He, that these forum rules were fast-tracked basically due to player unrest sparked by the most recent, and I say most recent because we've been complaining about the forum situation, I think, for at least a year, maybe 2. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would totally agree with what you're saying there.
Cool. Shall I continue on to the next post here then? Because I could read their TLDW, but I don't, or TLDR, but I don't find it to be any more valuable than the post.
No, and there's a comment here from IK O'Clock that kind of talks about the.
I will read that comment.
More, so we won't move. Yeah.
I Know a Clock says, honestly, I feel this whole thing has been blown way out of proportion. Yeah, right there with you. Did Jagex or the CM team approach the situation wrong? Yes. Is that a good reason for the massive amount of hate that this has spawned? Probably not. To me, Jagex has been doing a lot of things right lately, to be honest. Sure, Gem Dragons, Shattered Worlds, and the Unfair Fair were all extreme I love that. We're all unbalanced at release, but they did communicate about this and took feedback extremely quickly. They have been doing a lot more live streams and direct communication, community interaction. They have been showing a lot of passion and understanding lately, and things are nowhere near as bad as during the Wildy removal era. Like, hell yeah. This is a single forum thread, for Ivan's sake, and compared to how they've been dealing with other stuff, it feels more like an outlier than something more systemic. Look how they've approached every badly received update this year. And I would honestly say that is a perfect response to this thread, because that's exactly how I feel, at least. And this did get relatively upvoted, like a 27 upvotes on the Canada Grrl thread here. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that.
That's
statement.
A lot, too, for a dissenting opinion, because like,
yeah, it is.
You can't tell how many downvotes these people got, but like all the comments that tried to either be neutral or pro Jagex got downvoted to hell and back. So
yeah. Oh, trying to find Jmod responses in any of the Canada Grrl threads is like searching for a needle in the haystack, because they're so downvoted. They're like they've been hidden at this point. It's ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, I completely agree with that. And this next post is removed. Did you have an image of this one, or should I try and locate it?
I do not have an image for this one.
Take a look. This one was, we demand an actual explanation and apology to both Canada Grrl and the community at large about how recent events have been handled. This is a link to some, I guess, to itself. That's not overwhelmingly helpful. Let me see if there's a cached version of this page, because yeah, I've read it before, so I'd be surprised if there wasn't. And there is. However, I will have lost if there was any specific details you had tagged or anchor points. So this is,
we can go to the comment that someone left on this post. The title probably explains itself pretty well, so if we just move on to the angry comment and read that, it's still there.
All right, hang on. Let's pop open this link here, and it pops open. All right, what do you want to read? Because when I click this link here, it pops open a specific post to Mod Balance, is what this was supposed to pop open. Which says, just to clarify where we stand, the changes to the rules are something we are happy to discuss, but the moderator status of a player is something we simply won't be drawn on in this case. Our reasoning behind demodding remains the same, as we have said. Yes?
Link did you click on?
This is the actual link that was supposed to be present for the despite apology. Mod Balance still believes demodding Canada Grrl was the right thing to do. Is what I clicked on. Did I screw up? Let me see here. So I have a this we demand I guess maybe the we demand post just doesn't have one, and that's what Reddit or Google gave me as the option.
Yeah, that's what it's sounding like.
Okay, so jump into whatever you can pull out of this post then.
All right, so there's the next link down is an angry reply from Mighty Cohen Man. who says, if they had an ounce of decency, they'd apologize. I like how, despite the popularity of the threads until now being so high, your post isn't getting much traction. This community no longer has the right to complain about anything, period. I warned against this happening. I said Jagex would just wait until the storm blew over in order to avoid being pressured, and this subreddit has already fallen massively. You all deserve what you get from now on. Don't you dare complain unless you're too stupid to understand how much of a hypocrite you all are.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So directly after that, we follow up with a post called An Apology, ironically enough, which I think is just good post placement by you. So Balance does then post an apology to the RuneScape official forums. We go, where it says, we recently discussed some changes to the way that this forum was being moderated. To summarize those changes, we had been asked to clarify our stance on creating multiple threads. In most other areas of the forums, we do not allow players to make more than one thread per topic, so it was decided to extend that rule to here. However, based on your feedback, it is clear that by extending the rule to this forum, we have negatively affected some groups who contribute to our forum community. We fail to consider that these new threads are created on a basis that the information changes and therefore requires a new thread each week, and the long history that the groups have had with the forums. Indeed, some of these communities, specifically World 60 Pengs, have now moved to their own subreddits. We wish them luck with their new homes. We are sorry. The application of the rule did not encourage an open forum environment, and we would like to apologize for any confusion, inconvenience, and distress we may have caused. We will hold our hands up and admit that we have made a mistake, and that with our new proposed forum rules, we will ensure that this does not happen again. Under the new proposed rule set, we would permit distraction diversion communities to create new threads whenever necessary, provided the threads were being used to share new information, such as new penguin locations. Whilst we know the damage may already be done, we hope that by restoring flexibility to the D&D communities, the forums may once again be a useful place to share information. So, a rather diplomatic and, I think, needed response at this point, now that the frickin' tire fire is 10 feet high.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You'll notice something they didn't mention at all was the demodding of Canada Grrl.
Yes. They specifically, in the post that I read a little bit of, were like, we are not touching that. But didn't they eventually touch it? We'll see.
Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I don't
honestly even remember. This is actually a boat where I was like, this is the last post that I physically read. So
gotcha.
My reaction is genuine from here on out. I stopped caring. But like,
well, so
caring is the wrong word. Go ahead.
This leaves us ready for part 4, which I've titled "Too Late to Apologize." So we'll see. We'll see how well.
To apologize.
Exactly. DX wasn't here, so I was hoping you'd fill in for calling out the reference.
Yes.
I
love that song. So
we can understand. We can see how happy the community was with this apology in this next part.
Yes. So we have a post here called "Appreciated."
So I should say, a lot of these next posts are comments only that I really want to talk about. I think. Let me
point me to the comments, and I will. This next post here was not linked to a specific comment. The other posts, I believe,
it links to a post called "Appreciated Although Unexpected," right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
so
is just a link to the apology.
Exactly. That's the Reddit link to the apology. So
Gotcha.
now we're talking. I just wanted to say.
Okay. So these next ones here, these next comments are all in regards to the apology. Is that correct?
Exactly. And
okay.
Just read the top comment there.
You got it. So first one up is by PengSent, where it says, Jagex CM team mandating forum changes in secret. ModMat, he claims they were not mandated, but no other options were given. After 8+ years of active forum posts and demodding, a well-liked Fmod and Pmod after whistleblowing, pointing players to an active discussion thread, then locking the thread before discussing changes, attacking players publicly here on Reddit, then finally announcing that they're making forum changes, but not the ones players have been asking for. Players are tired of Jagex saying one thing, but then doing another. Is it being blowout of the water? I'm sorry, is it even being blown out of the water? Probably, but partly also thanks to Jagex's poor community management and outreach over these last few months as well.
And it's important to state this person is someone who works with World 60 Penguins.
Yes.
Don't know their exact relationship but some kind of manager of some sort over there. So they have a
Definitely
a
rank.
bias.
Yeah.
In some ways, and also I think the forum changes are exactly what players wanted.
Yeah, I mean that's what I wanted at least. Just I wanted the forum rules to not be like I sneeze and have my post deleted. That's all. Which it sounds like what they're going to do. I fear that it might cause Tufty Power to like have to possibly resign due to like he just won't
retire.
He won't be able to handle not touching all of those posts. But I'm just kidding. I love you, Tufty. But yeah, go ahead.
On the last post, there was actually I didn't link directly to the comment, but there's a top comment that I wanted to read from Randomly Broken 2, who says, "Mod redacted did not apologize personally. Redacted still lost her FMod/PMod status. Redacted is still a PMod community helper regardless of his or her actions at the community. Reposting because the original comment was removed. Thank you, Reddit mods."
Thank you indeed, Reddit mods. Oh, goodness.
There's someone who definitely didn't like the apology.
Plenty of people seem to not like the apology. Let's see here. We have... I'm just trying to figure out where I am now. Another post by Shauny? Is that where I'm at?
No, we have Jagex stands by Dmod is next.
I'm losing my shit here. Hang on. I might have not opened that one. Let's see here. If you want to start, go ahead, because I'm lost. What's the...
All right, so it's a post that says, despite an apology...
Okay, Mod Balance still
believes he might get... Yeah, what's the right thing to do? So you click on this, and it takes us to a post from Mod Balance where he says, just to clarify where we stand, the changes to the rules are something we are happy to discuss, but the moderator status of our players is something we simply won't draw on in this case. Our reasoning behind demodding remains the same, and as we have said, the decision was not made on the basis of the player in question challenged the rule change, which I will always welcome moderators to do, but on a number of other factors. I understand that the player is extremely popular, and I do not doubt that they are both a nice player and have made a significantly positive contribution to the forums in their time. But the decision we made was made despite all of this, and I believe it was the correct decision. Who is and isn't a moderator is one of the rare things that we need to make decisions on ourselves. In the spirit of the new, less restrictive rule set, I won't hide any discussion on the matter made before this post, but please respect the fact that this is Jagex's decision and one we have made our final decision on.
Bum, bum, bum. I just scrolled down a little bit and saw Kent's post and just like, big mistake, you guys fucked up. It's just like, it doesn't end.
So the community is still angry that they won't respond to the demon. They come down and they come down even harder and say, nope, we're not going to talk about it. And then what happens next is we go on to...
What happens next? We'll surprise you.
Of our story, which is Shauny shows up. And we get a Shauny post explaining the demon, telling us the gritty details.
Yes. This post here is by Mod Shauny, and it says, "Hey all, I've been watching the posts that have been going back and forth between us here in community management and the players who have been getting involved in the posts and discussions that have been taking place over the past few days here on Reddit and the RuneScape official forums. I asked Mod Balance and the rest of the team if I could be the one to respond on behalf of Jagex. You may feel demodding Canada Grrl may have been an unpopular decision to make, however, it is the correct thing, and I will share why below. Being a moderator is a matter of trust. When someone takes up the invitation to join the player or the forum mod team, they do so on the understanding that at times they will have access to various bits of confidential information. All posts on the forum mod and PMod forums are understood to be confidential unless we state otherwise. In this specific case, that trust had been damaged by this player. Whether the decision to change the process or rules was a good one or not is beside the point. Canada Grrl was right to challenge Jagex on the decision as she did. We did not demod players for discussing changes with us, as this allows us to gather the feedback and make a more concrete decision. Ultimately, this is about damaging our trust rather than telling players about the policy change. The current issue sadly stems from the fact that she forced our hand by sharing information that had yet to be confirmed publicly by our team, as posts laid out in the forum mod forums are confidential and shared with the community through the process we normally take when making these decisions. At this point, I should also make mention that we have posted numerous times in the past few weeks and months on our mod forums about how unacceptable leaking confidential information is. So it's not like it wasn't an upfront topic at the time. Is something I'm going to add in there right there. Like, it was known that leaking information was a problem, and that they were trying to, nib it in the bud. So it should have been in the forefront of most of the moderators' minds if they were active at the time. So here's the timeline of the situation. 19th of April. Mod Kalea posts a forum thread to discuss our proposed changes to the D&D forums. To quote, "Just wondering if there's a reason the Penguin threads in minigames and D&Ds are still getting a new thread every week. Had someone in the community pointed out to me, and it doesn't make much sense anymore, I feel. Do you reckon you could rework the thread slightly to have them both be one thread until they max out at 2,000 posts?" 20th of April. A discussion related to the change ensues. An initial method for implementing a single thread approach is discussed by Jagex and another forum mod who runs another Penguin community. 21st of April. Jagex confirms the announcement of these changes will be made on the following Wednesday, the 26th of April. From there are no more discussions by Canada Grrl on the Fmod thread. 22nd of April, 1:04 a.m.
So right here is a moment where she could have brought up the date being bad, right? So it says that they announced the date, and she didn't talk about it anymore publicly. She could have said, "Hey, can we do this on a different day?"
Yeah.
And instead of telling her people before she was supposed to, if she had done that, gotten an extension, then it wouldn't have been a problem, right?
Sounds like it. You'll never know now.
Yeah.
Like, instead of going down that road, she could have said, "Well, I asked them to, and they would not give me an extension," and that maybe would have given her the tiniest bit of leverage. I don't know how much, but probably none really at all. But in the eyes of the players, it would have been slightly more redeemable, I think. So at 1:04 in the morning, Canada Grrl shares the information from the confidential forum with other players. The Team Peng Twitter account shares a tweet, which says, "Starting immediately, Jagex Kalea has mandated we're not to recreate our forum thread weekly. Will a centralized thread affect you? How? Poll." So they have then listed.
There we go. I was wrong. They straight up called out that it was an Fmod or a Jmod changing or enforcing a rule.
This seems very personal now. They specifically.
Well, no. So Mod Kalea said that they could call her out.
That's true.
But the thing that's strange is that earlier I said I wasn't sure if they had tweeted directly about the event or if they had said we're going to make this change, or if they had said it was a Jmod change, and they said right away it was a Jmod change. So not only did they leak it, they blamed her. Which, sure, she said blame me, but that was blame her.
I forgot about that. You're right. Yeah, not blame me before it's announced. Correct. Yeah. The 24th of April at 3:44 p.m., after having chat logs escalated to us, we contacted Canada Grrl, informing her of the decision to demod her as a forum player moderator. On the 25th of April, as the changes are now out in the public with the tweet that was released, information of the changes is shared on the official World 71 Penguin thread. 26th of April, public discussion ensues with Mod Kalea posting on the public thread to clarify rationale. Do you want me to bother reading that thread or not, or does it add anything significant, do you know? If not, I'll just continue on.
No, I think you're good to continue.
Okay, 5th of May, a few days later, the matter is brought up on Reddit, which escalated the discussions more into the community, because that's where people actually are. In light of the confidentiality being breached, we demodded her from the Fmod team as per normal procedures. I was also alerted to chat logs in which there are discussions of how to have the decision overturned, with Canada Grrl sharing more information about the confidential discussion, alarmingly discussing personal details about a staff member.
People need to keep that in mind. So Shauny may not have worded that the greatest, because he said that they demodded her because of the leak, but then he says, and I also found out this stuff. And this stuff is probably what Mod Balance was referring to when he said we didn't demod her just for releasing the info. It was other things. It was this private discussion of whoever they were talking about.
Possibly this just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Probably Kalea, who they were talking about, from what we can see later. So yeah, it's that's part of the reason, and some people lose focus on that actually being mentioned in this post.
Yeah, so I'll continue on here. So outlined in the PMod Code of Conduct, it says, all information shared between Jagex and player moderators is confidential unless otherwise stated. Please be aware if you find you deliberately or maliciously divulging confidential information either in-game or on external websites or forums, we reserve the right to take action against your game account. As a result of this unmodly behavior, Fmod and Pmod was stripped away immediately with full agreement of the player support and community management teams. If you have kept track of what has happened in the past few days, you may have seen that Canada Grrl said, days after the demodding, that I hope I am not in breach of something and risking being banned. I should point out that this is purely about her modship and not further sanctions against her account, and at no point did we intend to take any further action against her. Sorry, I lost my space there. Did intend to take any further action against her beyond demodding. Out of respect for Canada Grrl, we decided not to share the information that was gathered, but since the topic continues to be discussed, and the fact that Canada Grrl has been so public with her own account has led to this. On a personal note, many lessons have been learned here internally in regards to this decision and our approach to this when making posts like this. We want to make sure you have all of the facts presented to you. I feel it is only fair that you, the community, have the full picture. Thanks for reading. So there you go. Shauny weighs in on that and gives a pretty good timeline for us to kind of follow now. If we are to assume that Shauny's word is, canon, if you will, correct, and they're not doing anything to cover up their own asses, then it does make Canada Grrl out to be the one at fault here. Yeah?
And the thing is, they provide pretty good info too, right? Like I think they provide more proof, at least on the parts that they can, of what Canada Grrl said. Unless they're like they could be
provided actual confidential information, including Jagex. They've mentioned confidential information that was analyzed, but they still did not provide, of course, that confidential information.
Yeah, it's just that they're a more reputable.
They are a much more reputable. It's the same argument against speeding ticket police officer versus the person driving, right? Like, I would say Jagex probably has a better track record for lying than the average police officer, but that being said, it's still a very similar situation where someone with authority is basically saying one thing and someone without authority or any real credentials is basically saying another thing. Who are you going to believe? And I am inclined to believe Jagex. Like, it would make a lot more sense that this legitimate company that has been doing business for over 16 years, has a disgruntled volunteer than the entire corporation is corrupt and trying to cover up that corruption. But
and I mean, I would agree with you. Let's just say the community, well, the vocal part of the Reddit community does not. That's for sure.
Indeed. The Reddit has eaten this alive. We'll continue on here with another person here, Armsy, who posts in regards to Canada Grrl's demodding again.
And Armsy is also
World 60 Pengs.
a part of the World 60 Pengs team.
Yes.
This information is fascinating as well because it kind of ties into Shauny talking about the private confidential information that was potentially shared. So just pay attention to those tie-ins that are going to show up here.
All right, here we go. Posted this on the forums, reposting here. The current issue sadly stems from the fact that she forced our hand by sharing information that had yet to be confirmed publicly by our team, to quote what Shauny said there. Okay, it's good to know that. Contrary to some earlier statements, the initial reason for demodding was for leaking the rule change and thus losing trust. I would argue that it was impractical for her to follow the new rules without some dissemination of knowledge, and that she should not be blamed for it going further. The reason you now can't reverse this seems to be, quote, after having chat logs escalated to us, we contacted Canada Grrl, informing her of the decision to demod her as an Fmod and Pmod. I was also alerted to chat logs in which there are discussions of how to have the decision overturned, with Canada Grrl sharing more information about the confidential discussion, alarmingly discussing personal details about a staff member. In replies to that, they say, I am aware of these personal details about the staff member and have been for many years. This information is open knowledge within the Penguin community. It is part of our history. When talking about said staff member with newer ranks, it is necessary to give them the context behind the conversation. Go ahead.
Just to say, to people who don't know, the said staff member they are referring to is Mod Kalea, and all this stuff that is going to be stated from here out is like super circumstantial and like no actual proof is provided. People are just
we're getting into 100% hearsay territory. This is like above top secret InfoWars stuff now. This is literally, take it as a grain of salt. We cannot confirm anything that's being said here. So with that,
exactly,
if other people in the clan are talking about the subject as Canada expected to stay silent, we have not publicly released this information, as yes, it includes personal information that if the staff member I would not want to come to light. Nevertheless, the information is out there among our little bit of the RuneScape community. I do not know exactly what conversations you are referring to, but I imagine Canada Grrl would be simply adding context and confirming facts, not maliciously spreading the information to all. So, whether it's maliciously or done with the intentions of being helpful, it doesn't change the fact that it's against the rules. And even with the rule change, it doesn't make what she did right. Sorry.
Exactly.
It sounds like she got salty and just maybe posted the information before she was supposed to.
Yeah, and also because she was salty, said stuff she shouldn't have. And said it in game chat. Like, said stuff against a certain Jmod, which we are assuming is Mod Kalea, due to this next post we'll read here, actually.
Yeah.
This next
you
post
actually have the YouTube link video of that, or no? Okay. I got excited. YouTube. I got excited because I saw someone saying, "Can you link the YouTube channel?" And I saw a URL shortener, but no. I got excited. I really want to see it. That's all. Like, my brain saw what it wanted to see.
Oh no! Yeah. No. Well, so this comment, just to give it some history, was left on the despite the apology. Mod Balance still believes that the ban was valid post from a little bit ago.
Yep.
I saved it till now because of how well it ties into the Shauny thing and the Armsy thing, and even the Canada Grrl part where she talks about some stuff that you can understand more with this. But this post was eventually deleted because it's pretty accusatory, and the person was not willing to provide any proof. But it's PengSent again, the person who works with World 60 Penguins, so some kind of manager there. I think it's a fascinating post.
Let's do it. So they are, again, replying to, as you were just saying, the demodding situation. They say, so ultimately, the demodding was because prior to her employment at Jagex, Mod Kalea and now her husband actively disrupted our D&D activities on World 60, making their identities known to many of our clan ranks after uploading videos of themselves doing so to a public YouTube channel. And if this is true, it just all the more, like, I secretly have like a little bit of wanting it to be true because it justifies my slightly irrational hatred for Mod Kalea.
Well, I don't even know. So I think there's, of course, the side I most lean on is there's no proof to this, so I can't really give it. Any credence.
You can't give it any credence whatsoever. I just want to.
But thinking about the potential of it being real, even if it is, I don't even know if it's that bad of a thing. If this person, like Mod Kalea, I do not believe is an older person, so she could have been in her teens when she was doing this. And who of us didn't do stupid stuff on the internet in our teens? It doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to get a job later on. It sounds like potentially what he's talking about here is her griefing them in some way. But it doesn't necessarily break the rules, griefing people and trying to make it harder for them to click on things or something like that. Like, that's not against it's annoying, but it's not against the rules.
No, you're right. I mean, griefing happens literally constantly to me at portables all day, every day. I just deal with it. Like, it just doesn't faze me anymore. I'm like, oh, yep, there's 18 drakes and somebody put fires down in like the only places that you can put portables. Yep, that's just normal. That's just portable. Like, people are assholes. Yeah, is what I'm trying to say here. Literally, when I was a kid, I did stupid things in RuneScape. Absolutely, and that's the thing. Is like, if you've been playing this game for 16 years, and I'm 29 years old. All right, I've been playing this game for over half my life. It is. If I worked at RuneScape, right? If I worked for Jagex on the RuneScape project, if you will, and it would be probably pretty easy. Just from the YouTube channel that I currently have had, like, since 2013 or whatever, it would probably be just as easy to find stupid shit that I've said to get me demodded,
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And I mean, I think that's why he deleted this comment later. Also, it doesn't really paint him in a good light. It also gives up more details than I think they wanted to, because like I said, you put that bit of Canada Grrl's post, the Shauny post here, the RMC post, all this together, and you're seeing probably what she was talking about. She was probably talking about my Kalea in some way that was not at all appropriate because she was related to this update, and so that's part of why she got demodded, plus sharing the info at all. But I think the talking bad about a Jmod is the main key here that people are missing. As a thing that you just can't do. I mean, if you want to vent, then also just don't vent outside the game if you really want to vent. But don't use in-game chat to vent about.
Yeah, bad idea.
Jmod.
Bad idea.
Jagex totally has the right to monitor that and to punish you for sharing that info if they find it as bad as it is. So yeah, he deleted that post. He refused to elaborate any further on it. So that's all the real evidence we have. Tried to keep, as neutral as possible on this. I feel like the evidence somewhat weighs closer to Jagex's favor, but also, there is still some fishiness on both sides, and I hope that that's what was represented here. We do have one more topic, but it's kind of a funny topic, so I figured I would just add my kind of thoughts on the post here. What about you? What are your kind of thoughts after hearing the whole story broke down like
after
this?
Hearing everything, I feel as though this situation is kind of one of unfortunate timing, miscommunication, and just bad overall community management on behalf of the Forum Mod and PMod team. Like, I just feel like this could have been avoided. I don't think that this is necessarily has anything to do with any sort of long-standing feud between World 60 Pengs and Mod Kalea. I think, if anything, she may have been, a disruptive teenager, like the majority of teenagers. We all do dumb things. I don't necessarily think there's some sort of long-running conspiracy there or anything. I would say that this is more than likely just a big misunderstanding overall, and unfortunately, Canada Grrl, being the one at the helm, was the one who was, of course, taking the brunt of the situation. But on the flip side of that, she kind of did it to herself, so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for her. It seems as though if she had just followed protocol, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And that is not an argument stating that, just always follow protocol. Like, there are times when following protocol is not the right thing to do. But in this instance, like, what she lost and the act of, the unintentional martyrdom just doesn't seem worth it. Go ahead.
Even if you act in that way, right? Like, sometimes not following protocol will get you fired, and it was still the right thing to do, depending what it is. And that's up to that's up to an individual choice to make.
It's a personal choice, yeah. Well, it seems like Canada Grrl made a very personal choice, right? And she needs to live with it. It seems like she doesn't want to own her decision now. Like, it seems like she originally did, and then the forum rules changed, and she used that as an opportunity to try and garner, I think, support.
Well, it sounds she didn't expect people to get as angry as they did. Like, she expected it to only be seen by a few people on Twitter, and then not have it blow up. But because it blew up, then that led to an investigation of her chat. And when they investigated her private chat, they found the personal information sharing of a PMod or a Jmod. And that changed things even further. Yeah. So, I think really, what happened, right? Like, if only 10 people had seen the tweet, then it wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Yeah, you're right. So what really happened, she basically demodded herself by drawing attention to herself. And then they looked into her chat and pretty much found cause to demod her. Yeah, again, if she had just waited a day and literally fought this through the proper channels, that information would have never been dug up, and she would still be a mod. All she had to do was fight this through proper channels. So that's really my final kind of diagnosis is like, had this been handled through the official channels that Jagex facilitates for their volunteer staff, then we would not be sitting here having this 2-hour special on her demodding in the first place.
I would totally agree, and I think with that we can move on to the final post of the show, which entitled Entrapment.
Entrapment. And this is a specific
Figure out
comment.
what nefarious stuff Jagex is up to in this post.
So this person is named Randomly Broken 2, who says, "This kind of action reminded me of this," which links to another post. This sort of action is called entrapment. The former Pmod complied and stated the reasoning of the unreasonable and sudden change. She took the bait and committed the offense. All this fuss could have been avoided if Mod Kalea posted in that thread requesting the changes. There is no need to treat a change to a public thread as confidential. So this person just misunderstood everything, it sounds like.
Right? It's just funny that they argue it's entrapment too. Like they did this on purpose.
Yeah. Like this whole thing.
The thing they lead to is a PMod who asks somebody, how do you get to your loot tab picture? So he gives the address, the web address, and then the PMod bans him for an hour, or mutes him for an hour for sharing a web address in open chat.
Yeah, I've seen that one before, and I honestly wonder
entrapment.
If that is entrapment.
That would count.
That is literally if this is real, then yes.
That's confirmed real because in that Reddit post, the Big Mod Balance chimes in and says we demodded that person.
What? Like, unless you're looking to be demodded, and there's got to be a bit like you
probably hacked.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's like, just ask. They'll demod you. It's like, no, I gotta go.
Oh, yeah,
I gotta go up big.
He says, the vast majority of PMods are committed, dedicated players who genuinely support and look out for this community. They're an incredible, useful team. It's disappointing to see safe behavior. I was in shock. This person involved in this incident is no longer a player moderator. I skipped over some of it there, but yeah, so
it's the gist.
They got found out and they got bounced. I'm guessing it was a hack, and yeah, someone just trying to figure out a way to F somebody over because they can't steal their stuff, so they just get them demodded.
Cool. Well, not cool.
But yeah, this whole thing does not associate as entrapment as well, which is just another point. Like people don't understand.
People just
what
love
these words actually mean.
People just love these big, scary words that have legal connotations to them, and the people also love drama. So yeah, that is exactly why this show is being done right now, is because people love drama. Anyway.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that everybody enjoyed the show. I put a lot of hours. I mean, I probably spent like at least 5 to 10 hours like reading all these threads and all the comments. And I saved the links just in case the show ever came together. And then Magebit and I talked about it. I meant to do one earlier, but it didn't get up getting a chance to the day. So most of this calmed down after last week, after the Shauny explanation. People were still angry, but it basically calmed down since then.
Yeah, it'll
so
die down.
I think the majority of the community has accepted that Shauny's explanation is at least mostly right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's people out there who disagree, and I'm totally okay with that. I know there's suspect knowledge on both sides, so it's hard to judge. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for listening, and if you like this type of stuff, make sure to donate to the PVM Perspective podcast, which is I don't remember where we're at. We're a little over $150 to being funded, so if you're able to donate, please do that. Also, I mean, those donations also help me do this show. I mean, part of the reason I'm willing to put in the work is because of how well that fundraiser has been going, so keep it up, everybody who has donated, and thanks everybody for listening.
Really do appreciate you putting the effort into producing this show, because all I had to do was literally show up and talk my head off. So I really do appreciate that, and it was I really enjoyed doing it. So yeah, again, if you want to support Harley and her endeavors on our network, tip.runeweek.com to support PVM Perspective and all of Harley's endeavors. Help her get funded for that. And of course, we'll be back on Friday for a regular edition of RuneScape Weekly. In the meantime, you can find us on
covering the Slayer stream this week, which is pretty exciting. I
haven't even watched the stream from yesterday yet. Am I going to be excited or am I going to be disappointed because, I suck at combat?
I think you'll be excited. I mean, it's just a quick synopsis. They announced a good diversity, and they said there'll still be some AFK-ness. Biggest thing is they're not going to be nerfing any monster or changing any of the old monsters. They ditched that. So I guess we'll talk about that more on next show, but I thought that was interesting.
Here's another announcement. that really doesn't need announcing, but I'll announce it anyway. The next part of the RuneScape Weekly Security Series was funded via Magebucks by Private Tucker. So I will be creating that video hopefully this weekend. So I'm looking forward to having the time or the drive to actually be able to do that. So cool. We're going to be seeing the next part to the Security Series coming soon. Anything else? We good to go?
Nope. That's everything.
Right on. Well, again, in the meantime, you can find us on social media. We got a Facebook page for you, facebook.com/rsweekly, Twitter page for you as well, @rsweekly, Discord for you, discord.runeweek.com. If you can, please rate us and review us on iTunes or whatever podcast aggregator you use to obtain the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Comment if you can, too. We love having an ongoing discussion. If you want to join us in-game, we got a clan chat for you. Clan chat, Kill, Skill, and Chill. It's Kill, Skill, the letter N, Chill, or clan.runeweek.com. Check out our ongoing clan competition. Oh, we got a big one going this month, being sponsored by Fatty420. Really kicking it up. We are doing a big skill of the month this month for Slayer, obviously, for the release of Menaphos. And you can, if you're in the clan, you can pretty much compete for the first 3 spots are going to get prizes. There's the total prize pot in total is like 50 million. So check that out if you want to be in on that. You got to be a member of the clan. Anyway, if in the meantime you want to find more content, we're at runescape.today for the podcast, magebit.tv for everything else. Big special thanks to everyone on Patreon as well. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/runescape. Thank you to our top Patreon supporters: Rune Group, Keski, Swagatorix, Alex W, Danny H, Kevin H, Olgunner, Hamster King, Sudwood, Godly Fury, and Tyler. Thank you so much for your ongoing patronage of the show. It means the world to me to be able to produce a show. We wouldn't be able to produce a show if it wasn't for our patrons, not only our top patrons, but all of our patrons and everyone who listens to the show. Again, thank you so much. We'll be back on Friday for another edition of RuneScape Weekly. Until then, and as always, happy scaping. Until then, and as always, happy scaping.